Welcome back. You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. We're in Egypt now. Police have arrested 4 members of a satirical street group that mocked Egypt's president and his supporters in video clips posted online. A move is part of an escalating crackdown on dissent that lays bare the government's diminishing tolerance for criticism. According to the lawyer for the group, the 4 were arrested late on Monday in Cairo and are likely to face charges of inciting protests and insulting state institutions. A 5th member of the group, Ezzedine Khalid, who's just 19 years old, was detained on Saturday and faces the same charges. The group Awlad El Shawaria, Street Children in English, has a large social media following. It shoots selfie-style clips on the streets that deal mostly with social and political issues. The VOA's Edward Uranian joins us now from Cairo with more on this. Edward, great to see you again.
My pleasure.
Now, with each passing day, it looks as though we're seeing a manifestation of the anti-terrorism law. To give us a sense of how free press is in Egypt. I know I've asked you this before, but in light of what's going on, these people just posted a video online. Is the government also afraid of social media?
Well, to be perfectly frank with you, if you look at all the misinformation and half-truths going out on social media, you can understand, or could understand if you were sitting here in Cairo, why the government would be upset about some of the things that people are putting out. At the same time, the reaction perhaps is too strong. I've heard a lot of people say that who support the government, but what you have to understand is no matter how bad the situation is regarding the press in Egypt, it's a lot better than the situation regarding the press in Libya, in Yemen, in Tunisia, in Algeria, in Syria, in Iraq, and in many other Arab countries, in Saudi Arabia for that matter.
Edward, how is the anti-terrorism law supposed to benefit the press? Or does it benefit the press?
I'm not sure I would argue that it benefits the press. Clearly, there's an interest on the part of many people in the government and many of the people in the citizenry to restore order to the country so the economy gets going again. And every time something like this pops up, it appears, at least from my point of view here in Cairo, that someone is looking for another incident or another excuse to disturb the domestic tranquility, if you want to put it that way. And while I can understand why some people would like to do that, at the same time it plays into the hands of those that would like to disrupt the social fabric of the country and to create a new revolution. I'm not sure that Egypt could stand a new revolution at this point.
Edward, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has been, well, his government has been in the news since last week. The clampdown on the press, not putting him in good light, not putting the government in good light, and then this happening. So how much of an impact is all of this having on the government? And does it really affect him? Does it really affect the president? Does it really affect the government?
I suspect that internally it probably does not affect the government terribly much. The number of journalists protesting is fairly insignificant. The number of people protesting is fairly insignificant. Most of the noise is, if you want to call it that, I'm being a little bit impolite there, but most of the noise is coming from abroad, from media organizations that appear to be trying to incite trouble in the country, and that's what the government is saying. And I would concur with their estimate, unfortunately.
And any word on the status of Giulio Regeni?
An Italian delegation was here over the weekend. There were reports on Reuters that the government had handed over some phone records of a number of people that are of interest in the case. Farther than that, there's pretty much of a gag out on the story in terms of what's going out domestically. So I couldn't give you any fresh information, but I mean, it appears as unclear, the story that is, what happened, as ever. I really couldn't give you any certainties on it, and I'm afraid that some of the media organizations are going a bit too far in their estimates.
Well, Edward, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa, and do stay safe in Cairo.
My pleasure.
Coming up on Network Africa, the queues are back at the filling stations. You've been there, I've been there. And Minister Petroleum is apologizing to Nigerians again for the current fuel scarcity situation, not giving us much, though, to understand why. Please join us again.